You are what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for.
Today's video is going to be the highly anticipated part 2 of my inside sentiments. Many of you had asked to see the process behind making a inside sentiment sort of swatch book. As I had shared in my previous video, I picked up this little book from Michaels, and this book came with one page that was like a tri-fold flip out, and the rest were just regular pages, and I really liked that tri-fold flip out. So what I'm going to do is take the regular pages in this book and turn them into tri-fold flip outs like you see here, like this yellow one that I created. And then we're going to create some clear pockets, and I'm going to walk you through the process how I do this. So I'm just going to pull out one of those pages. And also I wanted to make note that this book has these beautiful metal book corners, and I just tested to make sure that I could pop it off easily because I would like to decorate the cover as well. Okay, so I've got my first sheet here, and I need to grab some cardstock to create my flip out. So I've got two pieces here, and the first one measures 7.5 by 10 1/8. And the second piece measures 6.5 by 10 1/8. I just cut these out of some heavyweight craft cardstock, and I'm just going to score these. Now the one that's 7.5 inches, I'm going to score this across the 7.5 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then at 7 inches. That's the only scoring that we're going to need to do. I'm just going to take some double-sided tape and apply adhesive to both of those little 1/2 inch strips. Now I only had 1/4 inch tape here. If you have a bit of a thicker tape, you could probably get away with using that. I just applied 2 rows and I was fine with that. So then I'm going to crease the folds here, and I'll use my bone folder to make sure that I get good sharp creases. And then I'm also going to flip it over and score it the other way. I want this sort of flap to be flexible and able to maneuver open and close with ease. So I just really want to work in those folds. So I'm going to burnish them both ways. Okay, now I'm going to peel off the release paper on one side, and then take my smaller piece, my 6.5 inch piece, and I'm just going to attach it without crossing over that score mark. I'm going to line it up as best as I can, getting it as close to the score mark as possible, but not crossing it because I won't be able to close this properly. So I'm just lining it up, making sure I'm nice and straight here. I'll grab my bone folder and I'll burnish in that adhesive, and I'll just make sure that everything closes nicely. And at some point, we may have to come back and trim off a little bit off of that edge. So I'll just remove the release paper on the second part, and then I'll take my book page and adhere the side that doesn't have the holes in it. And I'll adhere that right down to that double-sided tape, and again making sure that I don't cross that score mark. So when I fold everything in, I notice right away I'm going to have to cut off a little bit. It doesn't fold together as seamlessly as I'd like it to. So I'll pop this piece into my trimmer. I'll cut off about just a little less than 1/4 inch. And then I'll grab my bone folder and just burnish all of those folds, making sure that this piece lays nice and flat. So I'll open and I'll close and I'll burnish and I'll flip it around, fold it the other way, and then burnish the folds the opposite way. And then this is the way it's going to look, with those sort of 1/4 inch tabs that are adhered to the cardstock will be folded in. Okay, so that's how it's going to go into my book, just like this. Now I have this Recollections paper pad. I have about 30,000 of these, and this is of course a new one that I just picked up from Michaels because I'm a total crazy person and I needed more paper like I need a hole in my head. But I got this one anyways, and I really love the watercolor florals and beautiful soft designs. So we're going to end up using 3 sheets of this pattern paper, and I've got it cut up into 6 pieces to fill in my project. Now, I don't think the measurements are really going to matter. You can cut your paper to measure whatever size book that you have, but for my book, I've got like a good 1/4 inch border all the way around pretty much. And each sort of flap is a little bit bigger than the other. So the first piece that I have measures 10 inches by 6¼ inches. The middle piece is 10 inches by 6 inches. And then the last piece is 10 inches by 5¾ So each little flip out is about 1/4 inch smaller than the next. So I'm just going to use some double-sided adhesive here and adhere these patterns onto the book. So I'll do that to both the front and the back and get all 3 pieces on the front. I'll flip it over and adhere the 3 pieces to the back. And then this is what we've got. So we have this beautiful 1/4 inch border all the way around each one of those panels. And this is ready to start adding some pockets. You could really decorate this and take it to the next level, but I want something super simple and not too distracting for my inside card greetings. So I'm going to use these page protectors, and these are just cheap little things that I picked up from the dollar store. You get a bunch in a pack for a couple of bucks, and I'm going to cut these up to fit onto each panel of my little page here. So I'm going to take the first page and I'm going to put it in my trimmer, and I'm going to cut it at 5 inches. I'm going to cut off the piece that has the sealed bottom and sealed 2 sides. Okay, and then I'm just going to stick the other piece off to the side and trim away the little area that has those punched hole rings. I don't want to cut away the perforated edge that's got that sort of plastic sealed together because it's nice and strong, and we want to use that to our advantage. So be careful not to cut that away. So this is what we have. We have a clear little pocket sort of with sealed edges on both sides and the bottom. Now I'm going to flip my pages open, and I'm going to take the pocket and line it up against the first page, and then just kind of determine how much of that plastic pocket that I need to cut away. So I'm going to line up those 2 sealed edges to the bottom left of my page. And then I want to make sure that it doesn't cross the score line. So I'm going to grab some scissors and trim away the parts that I don't need. So I'm just kind of eyeballing here. You can use your trimmer to make sure that you get it nice and straight. I'm just holding it in place using my scissors and just cutting along that line. And then this pocket's going to be ready to adhere onto our page. So I'm going to pick up my book, and then I'm going to slip that bottom corner into the pocket. So making sure that my little plastic page goes onto both sides of my cardstock. And then I just kind of want to see where that plastic is going to line up, and I'm going to apply double-sided adhesive to adhere that one side down. So I'm just eyeballing here. Sometimes I use a pencil, sometimes I just guess, hold it up to it, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just for me. It's not like I'm selling this or giving it away. It's going to be in my craft room, and it's not going to bother me if it's not perfect. I'm just going to line up a little piece of double-sided adhesive and then snip it away, and then flip my page over and do the same thing on the back side, making sure that pocket is nice and tight into the bottom corner and that cardstock is snug right in there. And then I'll just kind of see where my pocket ends and then apply my double-sided adhesive. There's nothing too fancy about it. I mean, you could find other ways. Maybe if you're really good at this, you could sew on a sewing machine, or if you have a better idea, please let me know. But I like this. I like the way it turns out. So I'm just going to peel back a little bit of that release paper, just a little smidge of it, push my pocket into the corner, and then tack it down to the exposed adhesive. So I just want to make sure everything's nice and straight, and then I'll peel the rest of that adhesive away and press in my pocket. Now you can take your bone folder here and burnish. I did notice sometimes I pressed too hard and I ended up wrinkling my little plastic, but it's okay. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to peel a little corner of that adhesive away, make sure my pocket is pushed right up nice and tight, and then tack that little corner down and peel the rest of the adhesive away. There we go. Now our first pocket is complete. So this is nice and clear, and it's going to be nice and strong too, because we didn't tamper with the strength of the pocket because the sealed edges still exist. So that's really nice, where we're not going to have to worry about the adhesive sort of releasing or drying over time. I mean, at some point we may have to add extra adhesive to the side, but I feel like this will be nice and sturdy. So the next thing I need to do is just punch any of those holes that are in that plastic. So what I like to do is grab a hole punch that I can see through and then sort of put my hole punch over the hole and punch and then twist a little bit. So this helps the plastic to sort of release. Because it's like so thin, sometimes when I punch the hole, it doesn't let go from the plastic and it's still in the way. It's just a little irritating. So I just like to squeeze and punch and twist, and then they pop off with ease. Okay, so that first pocket is ready to rock and roll. I love that. Okay, so now let's go back to the piece that we have left here. This piece is going to fit exactly in the center pocket, and we'll just have to trim that down to 5 inches. So I'm using the sealed edge as the bottom of this page. So there's only going to be one sealed edge on this pocket, and I'll get that cut down to 5 inches. So that last piece that we're going to cut away, we're not going to use for this project. I might think of some ways to use those little scraps, but for the rest of this project, we don't need that last little piece. So I'm going to take the sealed edge and wrap it around the center pocket. So I'm just kind of lining it up in the middle of the cardstock, and I want to make sure that it's nice and tight, and where there's a fold already, it lines up with the cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my double-sided adhesive to either side, just as we had done in the first pocket, and peel a little bit of that release paper away on both sides, tack the corners on, and then pull the rest of the release paper. Okay, looks great. And then I'll flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing. Add that adhesive, line up my pockets, and boom, we're done. This is coming together so quickly and easily. I did tear my cardstock a little bit, so I just grabbed some scissors and snipped away that little bit of extra adhesive that was too long, that had ripped my cardstock. But I think it doesn't really matter. It kind of looks like a cloud sort of in the background of this watercolor wash. Mistakes happen. It's not a big deal. Okay, so middle pocket is adhered. Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to grab one more page protector sheet, and I'm going to cut the bottom off again as we had done on the first page. I'm cutting it down to 5 inches. Okay, and now for this one, I want to use the sealed edge to the right. Okay, so this is now 5 inches like all the other pockets, but I want to use that sealed edge that doesn't have a perforation on it. I feel like if I left the perforated edge, that it would kind of interfere when it was closing. So I want to cut that away. So I'm lining this up to the bottom of my cardstock, just taking sort of an idea of where I need to cut. I'll make a little mark and use my trimmer and cut that little scrap away. Okay, so now we have a piece that's going to fit on here perfectly. And once again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slip that little sleeve over the bottom corner, make sure it's nice and tight up in there, apply my adhesive to the sides, and just as I had done, peel away a little corner, tack it down, and make sure it's all lined up and straight, and pull the adhesive away. There we go. Our little pockets are complete, and we have 6 pockets on this flip out. So 6 wonderful spaces to be able to add your elements to. Now, because I use 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card panels, there is a little bit of room above it. And I thought maybe that would be a good spot to use those little scraps. If you wanted to put like happy birthday sentiments or a front of your card greetings in little pockets above the happy birthday, that would be super cool. And it's something I might consider, but I feel like this really took a lot out of me. I worked really hard to create this gorgeous rainbow of a book, and it wasn't quite in rainbow order, so I had to fix that. I flipped the purple and the blue so that we could get this in rainbow order. We start with yellow, green, blue, purple, pink. I've got 5 pages, 6 pockets on each page. That gives me 30 pages to add my inside greetings to. I'm so excited about this. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to do was create some tabs. I want to identify each pocket as a specific type of greeting that's going to be inside. So it'll be quick and easy for me to reference what I'm looking for. So I grabbed another piece of paper that's this beautiful watercolor wash, and I'm cutting it down to 1-inch strips. And then I'm going to cut that down to 4 inches. So I'm going to end up with 6 strips that are 4 inches by 1 inch. Now I only need 5 because I have 5 pages. I want to create 5 little tabs. And these are just quick and easy, cute little tabs. If you have die cuts for this, you could definitely use those. But I think that this is just as good. So I'm going to take each piece and I'm going to fold it in half. Okay, so I'm just lining it up, making sure I get it nice and straight, and I'll get all of those pieces folded in half. You could use a scoreboard and crease and fold, but I didn't find it necessary. So I just lined them up, creased and fold. I use my bone folder to crease that little edge there. And then once all of those are folded, I'm going to take some double-sided adhesive and seal them shut. So we have a pattern paper on the front and the back, and it's a nice sturdy tab. So if there are any white areas, I'm going to grab my scissors and snip that away. For my next step, I'm going to grab a corner rounder, and I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch round and round the 2 top corners, just like that. So I'll do that to all of them. And then I'll grab some of my double-sided tape, and I'm just going to apply a little strip on the bottom piece that doesn't have the rounded corners. Okay, so I'm going to apply a little strip of adhesive to all of those, and then I'll peel off the release paper and start popping them onto my pages. So I'm just taking the first tab and lifting up the first page and applying that little tab right to it so it will stick out and be noticeable. And I'll push that adhesive in, and there we go. This tab is done. Super simple and easy. It doesn't interfere with the opening and closing. I can flip the page by grabbing the tab, and everything still functions the way I want it to. So in order to make sure that all my tabs get lined up evenly, I start with the top and then I go directly to the bottom. So I'm going to go to the very last page, line up my tab. I really like things to be symmetrical and even. I think if it's not, it bothers me, and I always end up going back and trying to fix it and things. So this is my process to make sure that the spaces between the tabs are nice and even. Okay, so I'll get all of those tabs applied to each page, and look at that. Super quick and easy just to flip through. This is so beautiful. It makes me so happy just to look at it. So now what I want to do is I want to create some labels and identify each section. So I'll grab my label maker and I'm going to print off some labels. The first one is going to be birthday, and I'll just trim off any of the excess. For once I cut off my label, there's a bunch of white, and I'd really like to see the color pattern on my tabs. So I like to make my labels just legible enough for me to see them without any extra white sort of that doesn't need to be there. So I'll peel off that release paper and use my pokey tool to help place this down. Press that label in, and boom, this baby is done. I'm going to go ahead and print off the rest of the labels. So I have birthday, I have thank you, I have sympathy, I have encouragement, and then I have Christmas. So these are my most used greetings for cards. And I really love the fact that I'm going to be able to grab this book and pull out a sentiment that will suit my needs. And I'll have multiple options. So that's really, really fun. Okay, our book is done. Look at this gorgeous piece of artwork. I'm just so in love with it. The last thing I wanted to do was decorate the book. Now, my camera shut off and I didn't know. I was recording away and I was right in the home stretch of this project. And once I finished the book and I took my camera over to the computer, this part of the recording wasn't there. It was very sad. So I just wanted to show you what it looked like anyways. I had taken some of the same pattern paper, covered the front and the back and the insides, and once again, as I mentioned previously, I removed those book corners. So I applied the book corners back over the cardstock. I created a little label and I hand wrote a little sign that says card sentiments, and our book is complete. This makes me so happy. It's sitting on my desk and I just keep staring at it. What I need to do next is dig through my stamps and find a bunch of sentiments to fill my book with. It's going to be so happy when I see how big and full this book looks with 30 different sentiments inside of it. All right, I hope that you enjoyed today's video and gotten some inspiration to get crafty in your space. And maybe you'll make a card sentiment book similar to mine. And if you do, I'd love to see it. Make sure that you tag me on Instagram, social media, #JennyCartDesigns. I'd love to see your work. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I appreciate the support as always. Coming up on screen are some videos I think you may enjoy. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!